This video will guide you through the process of getting registered with Autodesk and renewing your registration, and then also downloading the products that we're going to be using this year. So the first hurdle that we have noticed, which is affecting a lot of the students in the building, is the restrictions in the browser. So I'm going to open up Chrome and Edge, and I'm going to explain what you need to do right out the bat to make this work. So the first thing you need to do is, once you go to autodesk.com, so I'll give you a link to use to access the site, but you have to go to the .com site. Please make sure it doesn't redirect you to the .za site. Okay, so the first thing, if you're in Chrome, the first thing that you'll need to do is click on the settings icon. You'll need to go to site settings. So these are all the permissions. If you're going to access the site, you see it'll have the site, it'll have the data for the site. You need to make sure that you set up a few parameters here so that it allows you to get and interact with the website. Okay, so you'll see that pop-ups and redirects. Now, Autodesk websites are quite notorious for pop-ups and redirects. So make sure that you enable that. So you have to say allow. You can simply close the settings tab, and you'll notice at the top of your screen it will ask you to reload. So you're going to use the reload key. Likewise in Edge, this is in Edge now. You're going to make sure that you're going to go to site permissions for site, and you'll see it looks very similar to what you saw in Chrome. So you'll see there's a lot of other restrictions, so like mic, you name it. So what I'll do here again is find the pop-ups and redirects and make sure to click allow. Okay, you can simply just close that tab again, and you can just simply hit the refresh icon. Okay, so now both sites are set up to work. I'm going to stop using Edge at the moment and just stick with Chrome. So once you're at the Autodesk.com website, you'll need to scroll right down to the bottom, and you'll need to click on this link, Students and Educators. So click this link. It'll take you to this landing page. Now this is where you're going to start getting a lot of pop-ups and redirects. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is you need to select a product. At this point, if you are signed in, make sure that you sign yourself out. So if you are signed in, make sure that you sign out. So for example, I'll quickly sign in with my details. I just want to show you, if you are signed in, what you need to do. So if you are signed in, and sometimes once you signed in, it will also try and redirect you to another site. So just make sure that you stay on the .com site. Don't use the .za. It restricts your capabilities, okay, and what you can do. So make sure that you sign out. Very important. Make sure you signed out, and this is a redirect and pop-up. So this is what I was referring to. This is where the problem has come in. Okay, now you can see it redirects you, now it takes you back home. So the pop-ups and the redirects are blocking that function. So a lot of you couldn't access your content. Okay, the next thing you need to do is you need to go and select product. So make sure you've signed out. Now this landing page, you'll see that the icons will be grayed out for a period of time. And again, it's this redirect and pop-ups thing that's limiting you getting access to these. Okay, so the first bit of software I want you all to go and get is Revit. So you're going to say select. It'll be Forma. You're going to select that one as well. So it'll be Revit, Forma. If you want to use AutoCAD and anything else, it's the same process. So it's going to be Revit, Forma. We're going to scroll right down to the bottom. The last bit of software that you'll need is the Format Pro license. So you need to get a Format Pro license. This will become a cloud function later on. But for now, this is still valid, and please use it. It might be discontinued in the middle of the year, but it's getting transformed into another bit of software, which we'll discuss. So select Format Pro, but for this exercise, I'm just going to select Revit. Okay, now you need to select your role. Just select the student role. Educators have a whole different suite of applications that you get access to, and multiple seats. I'm an educator, but in this you can see. But in this instance, just select student. Now it's going to ask you, it wants to verify your details. This is very important. I think this is where some of the issues were occurring as well due to pop-ups and redirects. Now you need to fill in this information. There is a link. I'll give you a link to another video on how to go and register and what information you need to use. But if you have registered already, you simply just have to start putting in your details, and you have to agree to the terms. They're going to make you do this every 6 months, and they're going to validate if you're still a student or not, because there's been a lot of, so just bear this in mind. They're becoming quite strict in this regard. Now it's going to ask you to sign in. Okay, so now it should go through the whole process and validate your credentials. So this will also try and redirect its own node to the university's website to try and find out if you actually registered with the university. So this is where a lot of the complications have arisen. Okay, then it might ask you, so if it's been renewed, it might ask you to submit here, but because I've done this process already, it says I've already done this step, so I can then go and access my products. Now this is also a bit of a mess at the moment. So if you go to the products page, this also takes a lot of time to load, and you see that pop up again and it redirects. So if your browser's not set up, you're not going to access this information. Okay, so that's where a lot of the bugs have come into play. Now you've got to wait a bit. You see a lot of these icons are missing. As soon as it reloads, you'll notice now that you can go and download. This is the next hurdle that we need to deal with. And if you're going to download the software, if you click the install icon on this page, what it'll do is it'll download an application that then connects you to a server in Europe or in the United States. The problem with this is if your internet is not stable, and unfortunately on campus we are experiencing a lot of unstable, it's not a stable connection, so you're going to lose bits of information. So the installation, I would say on average 80% of the time it'll be successful, but there is a high risk or a high chance that the software won't install correctly. Then to uninstall the software, it's quite a complicated process. Okay, it's a lot of steps that you've got to follow to completely remove the application and then to start the process again. So what I have done is I provided a link where you can get all the software and you can just install it directly. So it's a whole different workflow, and I'll quickly walk you through that process. But if you are interested, I'll just show you how I would download Revit, for example. Okay, so let me just scroll down. Okay, I'm just going to find Revit quickly. So what you need to do is you'll need to click, you'll see it's got a custom install, but you can also go and say view details. So if you want to see more information about the download, now this is where it gets very interesting. So if it gives you that option, it means that you can download the full application in little parts. And that's the preferred method, because then you don't suffer data loss. So what I'll do is you hold down this arrow, then you're going to say direct download. I'm not going to click this, but if you click this direct download, it's going to download 2 parts of the application. So let me explain what that is. So once you click download, they're very large downloads and they're going to take a lot of time. But if you go to downloads folder, typically just make sure where it is downloading to your machine, and this is why it's so important to have a lot of space on your computer. So if we go to downloads, what it will download, so that shortcut mustn't be there, so just get rid of that. You're going to have, so it'll have 2 parts. This is the first part of that Revit file, and you can see it's quite small, and the second part is 10 gig. And it comes in a zip file, so just bear that in mind. All you need to do is then run this RVT file. So if you right click and you run as administrator, it will unpackage all this information onto your machine where you can then install it from, but it should run the installer automatically. I've also given you an update to Autodesk Access, so if a lot of you have been out for the year, you might have to run this application so that this tool will work. So this tool needs to run in order for the licensing to work. You can see I've signed in, but again, just sign out. If yours is signed in, just sign out so this doesn't complicate the process as well. So make sure you've signed out of that as well. Then I would right click and run that as administrator as well. So update your Autodesk Access app, and then you're going to run this one as well as administrator. I've given you the format file and I'll explain it later. You can just run it directly from here. So what it does is when you click that Revit, that first 101 part that you've downloaded, what it will do on your computer, it will make a folder on your machine called Autodesk, which is this folder over here. Then it'll have a WI folder, and within that you can see it unpacks all of this information into this folder. Now you can simply right click and run the application from here. This is a great way if your application stops working and you need to repair it. You can simply run the setup from this location again and it should repair Revit. But if I right click on this folder and I go to properties, you'll see that this is a lot of space that it takes up. It's 11 gig on your hard drive. So just bear that in mind. If you just want to see how much space you've got on your drive, please just click the C drive and say properties, and you can see I've got 300, so I've got some space left, but just remember, a lot of you might not have a 500 gigabyte hard drive, a lot of you might have a 256, so then you can see you're getting close to your limit, so just bear that in mind. Okay, you can remove these files if you're not using them, because they're purely there to help you if the software stops working, so you don't have to go through that whole process again of downloading, unpacking, so you can simply go into this folder and run Revit again, and it reinstalls everything. Okay, so now I've given you, instead of you going to the website, I've got a Teams page, so I'm just going to open that up quickly. I'll give you a link to this location as well, and I would like all of you to start joining this team so that when things change, when there's important updates, I can communicate to all of you as a department rather than in the individual classes. Okay, so this is taking a bit of time. Let me just go back to Teams. Okay, there we go. In the boukunde team, you'll see that there's a support channel for each application that we're going to be using in the department, and I'm going to be putting a whole lot of stuff here for you, all of you to use. Okay, in the Revit section, if you go to Files, okay, and you go to Install Files, so those parts I've given you that I showed you will be in this location. Now, this is any problem with a zip file. You'll notice that this is a zip file. Don't select all of these and then download them like this, because it will then try and put all of this in a zip file, which is not going to work. So you're going to have to download these individually. So please download that individually, select that one, then download that one, then select that and download. If you try and select everything, this zip file will be packaged incorrectly and it won't work. So just remember, maybe download that separately and put these in a zip file and then unpack it. Okay. Alright, so I'm just going to quickly show you the last step just so that you understand how this unpacks. So if you go to downloads, I'm just going to show you. If you click on this file, it takes a lot of time, so I'm just going to show you how it runs. You don't have to unpack the zip file. This application does that for you. So you just right click and you run as administrator. Okay, I'm going to cancel this because I think it's already on this machine and it's done this step. But you'll notice on your computer, depending on what type of hard drive you're using, a solid state, or if it's still a mechanical drive, this might take quite a lot of time. Okay, but this will then run and then it will unpack that information. So here I'm just going to say, I'm going to cancel it. Okay. Oh, sorry, cancel. I'm going to say cancel. Okay. So that will then unpack that in your C drive. I hope this helps. Please reach out. If you are battling, please communicate via the BIM team so that I can help you remotely. And I've got some people that will help me as well. They'll be monitoring those sites so that we can give you proper feedback. Thank you.